Hello guys! Welcome to the Alrasta channel to discuss and explain the exciting storyline of your favorite series, SwallowedStar episode 183. In the previous episode, we witnessed Luofeng embarking on his journey through the Yanji continent by himself. Upon entering Misty Sand Island and becoming involved in a battle, he came face to face with Nolan Shan once more. Luofeng was able to successfully eliminate his sworn enemy by employing an unexpected strategy to counter the attack that his adversary had launched. On Misty Sand Island, Luofeng's name has also become more well known in the last 100 years. He was able to earn the title of World Master Star Devourer. The war between the races is still going on, and Luofeng is currently facing off against 12 immortals who are associated with the insect race. What will happen in this episode? Without further ado, let's dive into the story. Still at the same location, the human race group that had previously fought alongside Luofeng, particularly the two commanders who were leading the troops, felt a wave of energy emanating from millions of kilometers away. This occurred while they were still at the same location. He was aware that it had originated from the base of the insect race, which was protected by the 12 immortals. Because of the ongoing conflict, the two commanders were curious about who might be the one who would have the courage to challenge the 12 immortals of the group. It was obvious that this was not a typical figure. Luofeng, who was currently engaged in combat with his adversaries and was refusing to allow them to escape, was, in fact, the one who attacked. It was beyond the bounds of what was considered normal, according to Babata, to fight 12 immortals at the same time. The situation was especially difficult for Luofeng, who was still at the World Master level. Although he was bleeding slightly, Luofeng had the impression that he was still a long way from reaching his limits. During that precise instant, Luofeng was being assaulted by 4 immortals who were attacking him from a close range. One of them was from the Star race, while the other 3 were from the Kawu race. Luofeng refrained from fighting back on purpose. Stunting for time, he went around in circles, waiting for the 12 immortals to scatter. Luofeng finally arrived at the right moment after tricking his adversaries to buy time. The rolling and crushing universe technique was used by Luofeng to knock down his opponents as he turned to attack. Then he used his new 7 Absolute Blade technique to finally target one person. To prevent the one-on-one battle from being interrupted, Luofeng decided to try out a new skill and activated the Star Eating Plant. Not letting him get away with it, the 2 Star Warriors attempted to stop him using thin beams of light emanating from their foreheads. These were not laser beams, but flexible threads known as Starlight Life threads. These controllable threads were quite troublesome, so Luofeng intended to take down the 2 Star Warriors first. However, it wasn't that easy. The 2 enemies were immediately protected by several Quasi-Warriors who wouldn't let Luofeng get close. The threads that began to form a ball and surround Luofeng were created from the core crystals of the Star race's life force. It could be said that these threads were condensed from all of their life energy, making them difficult to destroy. It was indeed quite difficult for Luofeng to escape from this trap, but that didn't mean he couldn't fight back. The Star-Eating Plant could easily escape through even the smallest of gaps. After breaking free, the plant began chasing the group of immortal enemies, capturing one by one those who fled. Since the enemies were fleeing, Luofeng was automatically freed from the thread trap. Meanwhile, the enemies, despite their efforts to escape, were eventually captured as well. Although the Star-Eating Plant was successful in crushing a number of the adversaries' bodies, the remaining ones were able to evade its grasp. Luofeng, on the other hand, proceeded to spring into action without delay, tearing the adversaries apart with his sword while simultaneously activating his Blood Warrior mode. When some of the adversaries came back to life, they were immediately greeted by the star-eating plant, which crushed their bodies once more. This occurred as soon as they came back to life. Luofeng's adversaries were effectively helpless against him for as long as the plant remained in existence. Therefore, in order to avoid being killed in a single assault, they chose to flee in different directions to avoid being killed in a single attack. For this reason, Luofeng had to decide who to target first. He chose the most arrogant warrior from the Kawu race, a bald stone figure. When the warrior was caught in the star-eating plant's trap, he said that Luofeng couldn't kill him because he had a biological brother named Fenya. One of the 12 marquises ruling Misty Sand Island was from the Kawu race, Fenya, the giant stone. The bald stone warrior said that there weren't many people on the island who would dare to be his enemy, let alone his brothers. While informing Luofeng that his brother was a powerful figure, the warrior secretly summoned him using a beetle-like insect stored within his body. However, this could not be hidden from Luofeng, who said there was no need to hide it if he wanted to report it. Luofeng then pulled the insect out of the man's body and sent a message to Fenya, stating that he and all his followers would die at Luofeng's hands. After that battle, Luofeng decided that the Kawu race was no longer a threat, so he advised Fenya and his friends to leave Misty Sand Island for their own safety. As a final move, Luofeng submerged the bald stone man with his grass-eating plant. Fenya was considered one of the strongest of the 12 marquises on Misty Sand Island, so Babata was surprised that Luofeng dared to challenge him, seemingly fearless. At that time, the insect faction had 4 immortal marquises among the 12 marquises on Misty Sand Island. They posed a threat to the human race, which is why Luofeng intended to weaken the insect faction, and this was the perfect opportunity to do so. In the meantime, a living stone in another location informed its superior, Fenya, about the conflict that was taking place in that certain location. Despite the fact that the humans had suffered significant casualties, their primary force had not yet been successfully defeated. Among the human forces, the one that drew Fenya's attention the most was the World Master Star Devourer, Luofeng. Luofeng was the human who had killed his brother and his race, which was regarded as being of little consequence. Taking into account the fact that the human race and the insect race had accumulated a blood debt, it was already too late to do anything about it. As a first target, Luofeng would be the first person that Fenya would take action against. In reality, it was nothing more than Fenya's desire to exact revenge. Due to the fact that she was overcome with feelings, Fenya moved quickly in the direction of Luofeng's location. After waiting for a considerable amount of time, Luofeng became aware of the presence of his adversary and made an attempt to consume him into his inner world. However, this strategy proved to be ineffective against Fenya, who possessed terrifying and brutal fire powers and exploding attacks. In spite of the fact that he had killed his younger brother, the World Master Star Devourer had not yet fled the scene. Fenya was surprised by his bravery. Luofeng said, "I've been waiting for this for a long time. I hope you don't disappoint me." Luofeng seemed to be challenging him. Without wasting any time, Fenya, who was already extremely angry, began to unleash heavy attacks with his hammer. Meanwhile, Luofeng, while watching his opponent's attacks, realized that the enemy in front of him was more dangerous than the 12 immortals he had previously fought at the same time. To draw Luofeng, who kept dodging, Fenya created a whirlwind of fire in the air. When Luofeng was pulled forward, Fenya unleashed a heavy hammer strike that exploded, sending him crashing to the ground. The enemy's follow-up attacks were launched again, but this time Luofeng countered, clashing with the enemy's attacks using the 3 strikes across the universe technique. While saying that earlier, Luofeng had intentionally taken a direct hit just to verify how powerful Fenya was. But after this, Luofeng promised he wouldn't get hit by the enemy's attacks again. 3 shadow clones of Luofeng attacked through dimensional rifts that appeared in all directions, closing back up afterward, allowing him to attack and escape simultaneously in a short amount of time. Luofeng's new attack method forced Fenya to retreat. Although each attack landed perfectly, the damage was insignificant. Luofeng therefore formed Yanshan armament into a great sword and unleashed it at the enemy. However, Fen Ya negated the powerful, penetrating attack by gathering the power of fire around him and forming a fiery tornado. Luofeng was aware that his adversary had given up on his defense and was now concentrating on attack mode. If Luofeng were to be struck by an attack that directed all of his opponent's strength, it would be obvious that his human body would not be able to withstand the force of the attack. Luofeng was eventually consumed by an exploding tornado of fire because he was unable to escape. When Fenya felt that he had the upper hand, he promised Luofeng that he would make him suffer today for being too risky in his challenge to the Kawu clan. As the smoke in the air began to dissipate, Fenya suddenly became aware of a powerful presence emanating from a gigantic monster that he was more than certain was Luofeng's servant. It was, without a doubt, the golden-horned behemoth, clad in silver armor. When its entire body became clearer, the golden-horned monster instantly disappeared and unexpectedly appeared above Fenya. Before being trampled by the golden-horned monster, Fenya once again formed a tornado, creating giant fire hammers from rocks to attack the golden-horned monster. However, Fenya's hammers were crushed by the golden-horned monster until they were destroyed. Not only that, but the golden-horned monster also immediately stepped on Feng Ya's small body, pressing him down onto the ground. Then, it pushed Feng Ya to the bottom of the ground until he reached the magma. After being pressed down by the golden-horned monster's hand, Feng Ya was immediately thrown back up by the monster. It was at this point that Fenya came to the realization that the power of the golden-horned monster was comparable to that of the immortal king. In the moment that Fenya was launched into the air, the golden-horned behemoth made use of its sky-tearing claw, which caused his body to be ripped into several pieces. It was possible for the adversary to live multiple lives, which resulted in this cycle occurring multiple times. The golden-horned behemoth has innate supergenes and the power of a blood warrior as its foundation. It is layered with numerous techniques fused with the 20,000 units of power generated from Shiwu's wings and has a secret manual technique. The result is a monster with 16,000 sounded 600 times the power of the golden-horned behemoth, equivalent to an immortal king. Even Fenya would be unable to withstand it. However, since his immortal spirit body has evolved, he can be revived more times than an ordinary immortal. Fenya refuses to die there and is doing his utmost to fight back. He plans to burn his immortal soul power as a final act of defiance. If he continues to rely on physical strength alone, it seems that Luofeng is still not strong enough to defeat his enemy. The solution is for Luofeng to add the spatial power obtained from the Shiwu wings to the attacks of the golden-horned behemoth. This is the power that can directly affect the immortal soul of Fenya. When he saw Fenya under pressure, he was surprised that the combined wing attack of the golden-horned monster could reduce the power of his immortal soul by 2% with each strike. When he saw Fenya begin to fear, he immediately begged Luofeng for mercy. He even addressed Luofeng as Your Majesty. However, neither Luofeng nor the golden-horned monster stopped their attacks. In fact, the cycle of death and resurrection of Fenya's body was speeding up in this battle. So rather than die without a fight, Fenya finally blew himself up with the last of his strength that had been worn down by the golden-horned behemoth monster. In the end, Fenya's body gradually exploded, while the golden-horned monster and Luofeng easily escaped into space. According to Babada, in reality, even an explosion of that magnitude was still insufficient to penetrate the defenses of the golden-horned behemoth, which was protected by Shiwu's wings. Here, Luofeng speculated that if he had fought using Shiwu's wings as a sword and learned to master them, he could have maximized the use of the golden-horned behemoth's body. It might also be possible to combine it with sword techniques, but Luofeng did not yet know how to apply them. Therefore, the solution was for Luofeng to ask his master, Primal Chaos City, about it. When Luofeng met his master, the master said that Shiwu's wings were indeed suitable for Luofeng, but Luofeng needed a special method to develop them. He couldn't learn from existing technique books, but had to create his own technique. If he used someone else's technique, Luofeng would have to spend at least 1,000 years. Creating his own technique would likely take even longer. Not only that, but the immortal kings from several races living on the main continent of Yanji, in pursuit of the treasures left behind by the ancient natives, had sparked an intense war. Countless lives had been sacrificed there. Therefore, if Luofeng wants to leave Misty Sand Island and compete with the immortal kings, the Shiwu wing attack technique he created could become his trump card. As a foundation, the master will guide Luofeng until he fully understands his own technique. On the other side, at the Machine Ray's headquarters, a machine named Siwei Ka was seen calling Palati. Hearing Siwei Ka's complaints, Palati promised that he would learn from his senior in front of him so that he would not experience failure again in the future. In truth, Palati is reluctant to assist his senior, as he was originally just an AI from a spaceship that underwent evolution. Now, he has become a warrior for the Immortal King thanks to the support of his lord. Not long after, a hologram figure called Lord appeared and asked about the mission that Siwei Ka was carrying out. Siwei Ka then reported that he had completed 51% of the task given by the Lord. Not only that, but he had also killed 893 Immortal King warriors from a foreign race and successfully collected 3 tokens. Upon hearing this, Lord praised him and asked Siwei Ka to prioritize collecting the tokens. What exactly is the function of these tokens, guys? Is this related to the secret treasure? And will the Machine Ray's characters eventually come into contact with Luofeng? Alright, let's wait and see in the next episode, guys. Thank you for watching until the end, and don't forget to support this channel with likes, subscribe, and comments. That's all from me. Bye.